Put me into a ward with 12 to 13 other patients, and within 30 minutes they removed me from that ward and put me into a single room. I noticed that I had a name tag with Smith on, and right after I noticed that, an officer came in and told me that from now on my name is Smith. I was never on the Liberty, and I was never ever to talk about it. I still have 53 pieces of shrapnel in me today.
Never before has the U.S. Navy ignored eyewitness testimony of American military to accept on faith the story told by their attackers. Never before has the U.S. Navy ignored eyewitness testimony of American military to accept on faith the story told by their attackers.
Certain entries in the ship's log of June 8th have raised serious questions.
Nobody knew who was wounded or how severely.
This had not been established until days after reaching Malta. The log also minimized the duration of the attack by over an hour and a half, conveniently fitting the Israeli version. It then documented the number of wounded, not as the actual 172, but at the widely published media figure of 75.
There should be a congressional committee, both Senate and House, to examine all the data available. And it's getting late to do this because, like McGonigal, God bless his soul, is gone.
I know that Bill was on board the USS Liberty, and the ship was off the coast at Gaza Strip, as I recall, and yet our government put it in writing in the United States Senate book of Congressional Medal of Honor recipients that he received his medal for action in Vietnam. Now, to me, that is one of the worst cover-ups in American history. How low can our government go?
I have never accepted the Israeli explanation, and so far as I am concerned, the affair of the USS Liberty remains a scar on the relations between Israel and the United States.
Things like this don't happen. Things are caused to happen. There must be some reason why more is not known. There must be some reason why we didn't react more deliberately, more directly, more positively, as we have reacted many times in our history before and since.
As a Marine, I'm proud to say that 3 members of the Liberty crew were Marines. 2 of them died that day, but Bryce Lockwood was decorated for saving sailors' lives. And Bill McGonigal, the skipper of the Liberty, was awarded the Medal of Honor for action above and beyond the call of duty. And I firmly believe, after review of the documentation of this film, that an in-depth, honest investigation, inquiry into what really happened that day is owed to the members of the crew, their family, and all Americans.
We need to take some very serious efforts to bring out the full story. And on that basis, I would certainly recommend that we pursue this with diligence. We go to the Congress and urge them to conduct a formal, complete investigation to get the full story about the loss of our great ship, the Liberty.
In the case of the Liberty, this is the first time, to my knowledge, where a United States warship has been attacked without warning, and no action whatever was taken to investigate this situation on the part of the Congress. I have urged this over and over again, and I still think that the attack on the Liberty warrants a full-fledged investigation by the Congress of the United States.
Those murdered that day must not have died in vain. The plea for justice by the Navy's most decorated crew should forever haunt us. Americans must never forget this second day of infamy and our own unbalanced foreign policy in the Middle East that precipitated it.
Let me guess, you sick fucks who are certainly going to try and excuse these things and make claims that everyone else is lying. The Israeli government's not lying, despite the fact that all evidence points that they are. So all of these honorable men who have proven themselves, put their lives on the lines for others, countless medals and awards, the credentials that these men have are unparalleled, as well as Israeli pilots who have admitted to knowing that this was an American ship. Some of them who refused to attack it and ended up spending time in jail. So all of these men who are speaking here are all white supremacists, right? They're anti-Semites. They hate Jews for no reason. And they're all making these lies up. It's just a big conspiracy and nothing but lies against Israel. Even the Israeli pilots themselves are in on these lies. These attacks didn't happen. It was all a mistaken identity. And each and every person here is lying, right? Just simply because for no reason they hate Jews. Nothing else. They're all white supremacists, members of the KKK, members of the Nazi Party, and just something inside of them makes them hate Jews. They're taught from an early age they're better than Jews. Well, the reality of it is we know who's taught from an early age to think that they're the chosen ones, the supremacists, the true supremacists, that think that they are superior to the rest of us. So you're going to claim that not only are all of these honorable men liars, but also Israeli pilots who have admitted to knowing. Otherwise, you must admit that Israel planned this coordinated attack, and they did so with the intent of killing every last American on board that ship, murdering every last one. Now that's one thing if your enemy does that to you, right? But the fact of the matter is this is an ally. The Americans allowed these planes near the ship the day before when they were scoping things out, and they had no reason to fear attack from them. But yet they come in a planned and coordinated attack that pretty much went off according to plan, except for a couple of small things that they couldn't have possibly foreseen. Otherwise, that ship would have been sunk. They would have blamed it on Egypt. The United States would have went to war with Egypt, losing countless other lives. All the while, Israel would have been behind it. And they were behind it, and there's absolutely no denying that. They murdered our people. This wasn't just some renegade commander that did this. This was a coordinated effort between the armed forces of Israel. Came from very high up, and a lot of people played ball knowing that it was an American ship. But they didn't give a shit. They did it anyways. So I'm quite angry. And if any of you have the balls to justify such a thing, or to accuse these honorable men of being liars, then yes, you were just as bad as these motherfuckers who did this. And you should be dealt with just as harshly as they should. In the same way that everyone that covered this up should be as well, including the media and all the traitors on our side, President Johnson included, among many others who sacrificed innocent lives, as if these young men were not people, as if they didn't have loved ones back home that knew them as their father, their son, their brother, their friend. These were people, and they just sacrificed like cattle. And that's what the Jewish faith preaches to them and teaches them their whole lives, that Gentiles are nothing more than cattle, and they treat us accordingly. And that's why so many Jews, and yes, I make it a point to say not all Jews, but that's why so many Jews, even those that are not behind these things, will justify these actions just because it was other Jews. No other reason. But these were Jews, and Jews support Jews no matter what. Not all, obviously, by these pilots who are very honorable men, and they sacrificed themselves rather than to take orders knowing that it was wrong. I have the deepest respect and admiration for them. And they were honorable men. And I would be just as offended if you called them liars as if you were to call these American heroes liars. Just so what? So you can defend Israel blindly, no matter what she does, no matter what the Jews do, no matter how they cover it up, no matter who they murder. Doesn't matter to you, right? So long as they're Jewish. And that's the type of people that come along and try and defend these actions. Are you one of them? Now we should also be mad at the U.S. officials, and not only mad, infuriated. these people deserve to be hung. They deserve to be shot for treason. The Secretary of Defense and anyone up and down the lines that knew of this, that planned this, and then that eventually concealed it, especially those that went in there and threatened these men's lives. Now, I don't care if I was a general and I didn't know anything about it, and then I was told, hey, you keep these men silent. I wouldn't do it. No man of honor and integrity would. Who would silence the truth, given an order or not? You see, that's what these people in charge depend on. They depend on us being fearful of the consequences, when the reality is if we just stood up to them, it would take all of their power away from them. It would strip them of it all.